Welcome to Veteran Nexus Letter Live, wherever you're watching. Hope you're making today your masterpiece. My name is Dr. David Geier, triple board certified orthopedic surgeon, sports medicine specialist, and anti-aging and regenerative medicine expert. I help veterans by writing Nexus letters and doing DBQs and some other things for your orthopedic injuries and conditions so that you can get the compensation you deserve. Very, very excited to be here coming off the Thanksgiving holiday. Very excited to be back. This is the one time, the one place where I sort of do this open forum where I answer any questions you have about the disability claims process, about injuries you might argue, primarily caused by the military, secondary conditions, adding DBQs to supplement a claim. Is one claim valid compared, based on whatever the, conditions were in the military, whatever it is. I am here to help discuss that. A couple things. One, this is not medical advice. It's not advice in any professional sense. If you have specific needs, concerns, medically or otherwise, talk to a professional in that area. As it pertains to medical advice, I haven't seen you, examined you, looked at x-rays, MRIs, any of that. Legally, I cannot give you medical advice online. This is meant for information and educational purposes only. Also, I am not doing this show to promote my business, so to speak, doing Nexus letters and DBQs for veterans. I am certainly happy to help, but my goal is to give you information. If you never work with me, no worries at all. This is meant to help maybe point you in the right direction, not necessarily to promote myself. Also, if you want to ask a question, do not leave it in the comments below this video. If you're on YouTube, I am not actually on YouTube right now. I'm on a service called eCam. What comes through to me are comments left in the chat, which on a desktop or laptop should be on the right side of the screen, not 100% sure on the phone. But if you're wondering where that is, look for MJS213 who says, "Hello and happy holidays, Dr. Geier," and happy holidays to you. Wherever that comment is, leave your question under that. Every time I do this show, I log off, then go into my YouTube channel to do some admin stuff, cleaning up the channel in this show, and I find 3 or 4 questions that were left in the comments that I never saw. And honestly, I just want to make sure I answer all your questions. I stay as long as there's questions. So this can be a 10-minute, 5-10-minute show, or it can be half an hour or longer. Sometimes we have tons of questions. Sometimes we don't have very many. I'll stay as long as there are some. Yes, happy holidays to you. I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. I definitely enjoyed mine. He goes on to say, "Your Nexus letter you wrote was awesome. That means a lot. You have no idea how much I appreciate that." And again, this is not to promote my practice. I'm just reading what he wrote. But they relied on an old Nexus from a different doctor. I have a claim in a higher level review. I have my talking points ready to lay on them. Still waiting for the call. And then he says, where is it? "My supplemental claim packet was never looked at. It was ignored, but I'm feeling good about winning my claim on an HLR." One of the things, it's funny, I always ask the veterans I work with to let me know how it goes, and I try to set reminders in my calendar to reach out after about 4 months if I haven't heard. And it's interesting. And I've talked about this in other live shows, and I haven't done the math recently, but the last time I sort of tracked what percentage of veterans who reached out to me had already been denied for a condition before they reached out to me, and it was like 92%. It was really high. I haven't done that math recently, but I bet it's still that high. And still, the overwhelming majority of the ones I work with win even after they've been denied. But I'm always curious when somebody I work with, I write a really long, well-researched Nexus letter, 15, 20 to 40, 50 pages sometimes, and sometimes DBQs, and they still get denied. And I always want to see the reason for denial. And it stuns me, maybe it will not surprise you, but the vast majority of those, there's no reference to any my Nexus letter or Nexus and DBQ. It's not listed in the evidence they reviewed. It's not listed in their reasoning at all. I think largely they see a well-researched long letter from an orthopedic surgeon, and these nurse practitioners or PAs that come from family medicine or internal medicine, no orthopedic background, I don't know, I can't read minds, but I think they immediately think, oh, I'm not going to win this, so they just act like it didn't happen, that it's not there. what I have found is the vet, when that happens, and it happens more than I'd like to see, when those go to higher level review, that almost always wins in a higher level review. The veteran that says, hey, look, I got a board certified orthopedic surgeon that did all this, wrote this long letter, all these studies cited, and it almost always wins when it wasn't considered the first time. Not saying that's always going to happen, but I see that more than I'd like to see. Again, what I'd rather see is you win the first time. I don't know in this setting if that's what happened, but higher level reviews, in my experience, unless there's more to it, typically go pretty well if information was ignored. Teddy Woodson 9127 says, hello, I am in Charleston, South Carolina, or just outside. I'm in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, right outside of Charleston. Beautiful, beautiful part of the world. MJ says, and I actually know who this is, but again, for anonymity reasons, won't share it. Veteran, obviously I've worked with him. He talked about a Nexus letter I wrote. He's in Hamilton, Ohio. Yeah, Charleston's a beautiful place. One of the things that people ask, and I think somebody asked this on the last live show, and those are all the questions I have, but if more people are watching, if you have questions, again, leave those in the chat. Just look for these comments, leave your question right under that. But being in Charleston, South Carolina, people mistakenly assume, oh, I'm not from Charleston, I can't work with you. Nexus letters, it doesn't matter where the expert is. In fact, most of the people that do this, whether it's physicians or these big firms that do hundreds of Nexus letters a week, are not in your city or state. They're wherever they are, and you can write them from anywhere. It's like a case review for a workers' comp claim where you're not even doing an exam, so it can be anywhere, and there's no penalty for that. There is a debate in the DBQ as it pertains to DBQs about, do you need to go to somebody close to you? And some of you may have heard of this 100-mile rule, where it gets flagged if you're not within 100 miles of the person doing the exam. And that is true that sometimes raises warning signs, I guess, for lack of a better word. I've only had that happen once. I do DBQs with vets all over the country. Probably 2/3 come to see me in Charleston because it's a better exam. The VA likes them in person, but some people just can't get here, and we do it by Zoom. And I've only had one veteran flagged for that 100-mile rule. One of the things that I think goes well is I just know that there's no orthopedic surgeons that I'm aware of in the United States that will do this work. I do it outside of my practice, but I've carved out time to do it. Most orthopedic surgeons, like I was for the first 16 years of my career, were just too busy to do, 5-6 hours to write a really long, well-researched Nexus letter, to spend the time to do the DBQ exam, and then the hour or so it takes to type that thing up. Many, many hours. We just don't have time for it. And so the chance that you could go wherever you live and find an orthopedic surgeon in your town to do this and do it well is almost zero, if not zero. And so usually, if you just make a few calls to orthopedic surgeons around, find out you can't find anybody to do it, and then say that to the VA, you overcome that 100-mile objection. I know nobody asked, but that has come up on this show multiple times. And so the question of where I am, yes, it's cool because Charleston, South Carolina is a great part of the world, but in the grander sense of the thing, it doesn't matter that much. I have VSOs that work with me from all over the country and send their clients to me. They're nowhere near South. In fact, I don't know any of the VSOs in South Carolina, but I have VSOs in a number of other states that send all their clients to me, even though they're well outside 100 miles. So I don't think it matters that much. As far as he says, 40 or 50 pages is too long. Yeah, the 1 or 2 paragraphs. So like I said, the 90-ish% of vets that reach out to me have been denied before they reach out to me, and so I see all the Nexus letters they submit, and it's the 1 or 2 page or 1 or 2 paragraph, 1-page Nexus letters with no information cited. almost always that are getting denied. I don't think those are terribly helpful. Right, you're not wrong that they probably are not reading the 40 or 50 pages, but I usually have a 1.5 page summary at the beginning, and then with page numbers if they want more information. But no, I see what you're saying. I strongly disagree that all those studies cited and explaining how those studies show one thing can cause another and stuff like that. I would strongly disagree that that's not more helpful than the nonsense, the nothing that's in these 1 or 2 paragraph things. I would argue that it's more likely than not caused by, with no explanation as to why and no studies supporting that. I don't think those letters, and that's typically what you get for these big firms and stuff. And that's not a criticism of all the individual firms. I've just read thousands of Nexus letters that people that reach out to me, or at least many hundreds of those really short ones, as part of their records that they send me, and they've been denied. Take that for what you're worth, and by all means, if you don't want something like that, I'm probably not the right person, but most of my veterans win. As MJS 2713, the Nexus letter you wrote is awesome. I don't think he's disappointed, so for what that's worth. He says, my claim was back secondary to hernia. Wait, hang on. Sorry, this is really small on the screen. My claim was back secondary to my hernia service connected for it. So anyway, having said that, since those are all the questions I have, I will start to wrap up, but if any other questions come in the next minute or two, I will take those. There is a link to an ebook that I wrote. It's completely free for people sort of going through the process or maybe interested in going through the process. It's called, I get the title wrong, it's the 8 most common reasons the VA denies service connection, and then how you can beat it. I analyzed hundreds and hundreds of denial letters that I've read and looked for common themes, and those were the common themes. I'll probably update that at some point, but if you want to check that out, there's a link in the description below this video. Just go there, enter your name, email address, and it'll get delivered to you. If you scroll farther down that page, that'll tell you a little bit more about working with me and my team if you are potentially interested in that. But again, I'm not necessarily here to promote what I do, that information is there for people that are interested. But that ebook is worth checking out. One of the things I think that there's just, I've said this to almost all the veterans I work with, and I know there's exceptions, but I don't think the vast majority of CMP examiners, from the sense I get, are out to get veterans and just deny at all costs. I mean, there may be some of that. I think it's more that the system is so overloaded and they're so backlogged that they just look for easy ways to get cases off their desk, and the easiest way is to look for very simple, obvious reasons to deny, and there's just very common lack of service treatment records, lack of a current diagnosis or current disability, and there's a number of others. And I think a lot of this is about sort of taking away the easy ways to deny and making it harder and harder to deny by giving them so many reasons it should be service connected. And so that's where I think it can be really helpful. All right, Chuck says, Doc, thank you again for the Nexus letter and DBQ. Worked first time through, very satisfied. I very much appreciate that. That means a lot. And again, I am not telling people to go out and promote me, but again, the 40 and 50 page is too long. I would bet most of my veterans that have won would disagree, even though, to be fair, most of them are not 40 or 50. Those are typically 2-3 condition letters in one letter. Most of the time, one condition will be 15 to 20 pages, but still, it's valid. Teddy, how much? I don't have uniform set pricing, and there's a number of reasons for that. Typically, and this is just a sort of a framework, one injury or condition, Nexus letter, one injury or condition, or one body part DBQ, each of those are $1,500, and a medical condition is typically $2,000, but there's a lot of variability to that for a variety of reasons. That is probably, I do it on a case-by-case basis. People that do multiple conditions at the same time, I typically give discounts, things like that. But so that's not set by any standpoint. That's just sort of where it starts. Yes, I completely say up front, I am more expensive than just about anybody out there. There also is nobody with my level of credentials out there. And most of the big firms that crank out letters don't even take people on that have been denied before. And again, I told you almost everybody that reaches out to me has been denied. So they come to me looking for somebody with more credentials than their CNP examiner, as at least pertains to orthopedic things. So it's just harder. It's a lot more work on my part in those scenarios. And so I'm trying to do this around a full-time medical practice too. It is not a business that I do full-time. So, but I go through records and then get with you and talk about, hey, do I think I can help you win the case? And then if so, it would cost this much for a Nexus or this much for a Nexus plus DBQ, that kind of thing. But it's not uniform. Craig has a question for one of the other people about his back secondary to the service thing. Chuck says, FYI, I had a great CMP examiner. She used your info in her write-up. Yeah, I am always excited to hear that, when especially if you can do a Nexus and a DBQ with me before you have your CMP exam. I love it when that's possible, because that almost always wins. They see it, and one of two things happens from what I hear from these vets. Either one, they're like, crap, I can't overcome this, and so they sort of grudgingly give in, or what it sounds like here, they're excited to get it because, again, they don't typically have an orthopedic background, and so this actually helps them out a ton, and they enthusiastically support it. So that I would much rather get people before they've had their CMP exams than after they've been denied and things like that. But yeah, if you can do it in that scenario, I don't think that many of the CMP examiners are just dead set. I'm sure I've heard stories from veterans I've worked with. They tell me how rude the CMP examiner was, and it felt like they were just trying to screw him over. But I don't think that's the norm. I think it's more just this backlog of cases, and they're just trying to get through them, and the easiest way to do that is to find easy ways to deny. And these two are going back and forth about their process, those of you that want to follow along in the chat. But no, definitely happy to help any way I can. You can certainly reach out to me, and Jennifer and Melissa, who work with me, can get records, and we have a questionnaire that has a lot of information I need for Nexus letters. And then we can kind of figure out where to go from there. If you're not interested, no worries. I hope not just these live shows, but the videos on the YouTube channel are helpful in answering questions, especially the latest series of videos I've been making, where I answer questions that I get from veterans and then turn them into videos, because I know if one veteran has that question, tons of others do. So I hope that YouTube channel is helpful, even if you never end up working with me. Same with the ebook, if you want to check that out. Sometime in 2026, I'm going to rewrite that, because there's a lot of things that I think need to be improved, just what I've learned from more and more experience doing this. So that will probably get redone soon. And I may create another sort of free giveaway sign up thing, like a checklist type of thing, things that you should have as part of your claim. That may come in 2026 as well. But very, very much appreciate it. If I can help in any way, there's a link to that lead page, the page where you can get the ebook. If you scroll down, you can enter information to get to me, and we can start conversing about the process. But very, very much appreciate it. And very much appreciate you guys. Yeah, he says the letter for me was 20 pages. Yeah, I don't typically write 40 or 50 pages, but I have a lot of veterans, I will say, that will do 4 or 5 injuries all at once rather than sort of staging them. I have some that'll do one every few months. I'm on round 5 with a number of vets. There's a lot of variation. I don't want to write 40 or 50 pages, but if it's a lot of claims, or it just depends. But I'm going to argue as persuasively as possible for whoever I work with, and a lot of times that involves a lot of scientific studies to overcome there's no evidence that this causes that, which you have to combat with studies studies. There's no way to overcome that other than long Nexus letters. So anyway, that's all I'll say. I hope you all had a safe and happy Thanksgiving. We will be back. I will be back January 5th in 2026. That'll be our first live show. So after Christmas and New Year's, we'll be back doing the live shows, but check out the YouTube channel and definitely reach out if I can help. Have a wonderful rest of your week and night, and have a great holiday, and I will see you all very soon. Take care.